Welcome to Module 8 on one-step equations. Right now, pause the video, find your writing utensil and a piece of paper. You always need to have your notebook in front of you when you're taking notes on these videos. If you need help getting a notebook, let your teacher know today. Note-taking is important. It helps you remember what you read. It gives you a spot to access the information that you've learned, and you can use your notes on your quizzes and your assessments. Today we're going to talk about one-step equations. We're going to learn how to solve those using addition and subtraction and multiplying and dividing. So I want you to consider the equation x plus 3 equals 5. And I know that nearly all of you know that answer off the top of your head without solving it. But I want you to remember that the equations don't stay this small, and it's important for us to start building our equation solving skills now. We want to think about equations as a scale. What that's telling me is something added to 3 balances with 5. Those two sides are equal. If I want to solve for x, that means I need to isolate x, which means I need to take 3 away from each side. And I'm actually going to show that over here. What I've done is done the same operation on each side so that the sides remain balanced. If I just take 3 away on one side, now one side is much lighter than the other and the scales don't balance. So I've taken away the 3's and I'm left with x, and I had 5 and took away 3, so now I know that x is equal to 2. Our goal for solving equations is going to be to use inverse operations. Inverse operations are operations that are opposites of each other, such as add and subtract or multiply and divide. Inverse operations help you isolate the variable in an equation. So if you haven't done so already, give yourself a new heading on your notebook that we're solving a one-step equation. And you might want to write down what inverse operations are and that our goal is to isolate the variable. You don't need a new topic. We're going to be working on one-step equations. So it's important that you're learning proper steps to solving an equation. Many of you can solve these equations in your head. I get it. But remember, these are only going to get larger, and so we want to make sure we're using proper steps to solve so that we can apply those when these get too big to solve in your head. So we have two sides to our equation. We're going to use that vertical line to show the middle. I want to isolate y because my directions say to solve for y. That's telling you to get y alone. Remember, we're going to use inverse operations. The opposite of subtract is add, so we're going to add 7 to each side. The negative 7 and the positive 7 cancel out. You're left with y equals 15. If you're bothered when your variable is on the right-hand side, just switch it over. We can make that y plus 4 equals 6. Notice I didn't change the expression itself. I didn't turn that into 4 plus y. I just switched the two boxes. Y plus 4 equals 6 is the same thing as 6 equals y plus 4. Now I have two sides. I'm going to subtract 4 from each side so I can see that y equals 2. When I solve for y, I'm going to pause here. You try this one on your own. Hopefully you practiced your good problem solving skills and you subtracted 2 on each side, and so you got y equals 9. You don't need a new topic. We're still under the heading of solving a one-step equation. See if you can figure out what I would do here to switch these around so that we had the y on the left-hand side instead of on the right. Go ahead and do that now. You should have rewritten this as negative 5 plus y equals 7. Notice I didn't change the order of what was in the boxes. Now we're going to draw our line down. Now you want to be careful. Even though this says plus, it's actually the y that's positive, not the 5. The 5 is negative. To turn that into a 0, I want to add 5, not subtract 5. If I subtract another 5, I get a negative 10 here instead of making these cancel out. I do that on both sides, and so y equals 12. For this one, we're going to draw our line down, subtract 9 from each side to isolate y because the opposite of add is subtract. And then you want to be careful about your integer rules. This does not say negative 3 minus negative 9. That is not what this problem says. If you put that into your calculator, it's going to give you 6, which is incorrect. What this says is negative 3 minus 9, and so we're supposed to do keep, change, change, and now we can see that the signs are the same, so we add and keep the sign. You pause the video and try this one on your own. You should have started by drawing your line down from each side. That -3 needs to be the opposite, so we're going to add 3 to each side. A -3 and a +3 make 0, and so y equals 5 here. Now, what if we need to be able to multiply or divide? Remember, we've been talking about the fact that when a number is right next to a letter, that means multiplication. If you want to switch your sides, you can. This becomes 3y equals 69. When I see the 3 right next to the y, that means multiply. The opposite of multiply is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and so y equals 23 here. You pause the video and try this one on your own. You should have rewritten your equation on your own paper, drawn your line down, divided by 2 on each side, and so v equals 26 here. It's the same thing with division. The opposite of division is multiplication. So if I have w divided by 3, the opposite of divide is multiply, so we're going to multiply both sides times 3. Just because 48 is divisible by 3 doesn't mean that's how we're solving this problem. We actually need to multiply 48 times 3, and so we get 144. You pause the video and try this one on your own. You should have recognized that you were trying to isolate x. The opposite of divide is multiply, so we're going to do 2 divided by 2 becomes 1, so we get x here, and -10 times 2 is -20. Sometimes you won't get a whole number for an answer. Make sure you leave your answers as reduced fractions. There's no reason to turn these into decimals. That's actually an additional step that you don't need. If you're bothered by the fact that the variable is on the right-hand side, then you can flip that over. Now we can see that the opposite of multiply is divide, so we're going to divide both sides by 6. What you want to look for is that's your actual solution right there. We just need to reduce it. Think about what 4 and 6 can both be divided by. Both 4 and 6 are divisible by 2. So to reduce that, we end up getting 2/3 for our answer. You pause the video and try this one on your own. Make sure you write your answer as a fraction, not as a decimal. You should have first flipped this over so that you have 16b equals 8. Some of you, if you're doing mental math, are going to assume that your answer is 2. That's not the case. 16 times 2 is not 8. What we need to do to get the 16 away from the b is to divide both sides by 16. That leaves us with b on the right-hand side and this fraction, 8 over 16, which can be reduced. 8 and 16 are both divisible by 8, and so we end up getting 1/2, not 2 for that one. For a problem like 30 equals 25y, switch that over first, 25y equals 30, and then we're going to divide both sides by 25. Do not put that into your calculator and change it into a decimal. We just want to reduce. 30 and 25 are both divisible by 5, and so we end up getting 6/5 as our solution. You pause the video and try this one on your own. You should have flipped this over and rewritten it as 10m equals 6. We're going to divide both sides by 10 so that the 10's cancel. There's our fractional solution right there, 6 over 10. And then 6 and 10 are both divisible by 2, so we're going to rewrite that as 3/5. And you're done. That's it for one-step equations. This video will be available on Haiku if you need to rewatch, and will be available on each skill for Module 8 in ALEKS. You should now complete your Module 8 practice problems in ALEKS. If you have a question about a problem in ALEKS, click on the tab that says Explanation. You will get an explanation and a solution before you move on to a different problem. Don't forget to take your assessment, as that will be a big part of your grade. The ALEKS won't automatically give you your assessment. You need to find the circle with the 3 lines. You need to click on Assignments, and then you need to find Quiz 8, which will match with Module 8. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.